Hey, good morning. It's Ken Walls. Welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I am really excited to have you guys here today. Want to thank you all in advance for sharing this out. We have an unbelievable guest on today. My good friend, my good buddy, Martin Matthews is on the show. Welcome to the show, Martin.
What's up, man? How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Dude, you're down in Atlanta, right?
Yes, I am.
Hot Atlanta.
Hey, it's already 85 degrees or something.
It's hot down. I lived down there for about a year or so. It was hot. But it's an awesome city. So, hey, I created this show to kind of give back to the world. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people, whether they're entrepreneurs or they're just people, that kind of, get stuck in life and they don't know how to overcome it. So I love having people on here who have made it. And you've certainly, you've done very, very well for yourself. And you've certainly overcome some challenges for sure. So I want to kind of start out with, kind of telling everybody who you are and where you were born and raised. Let's start there.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on here. I'm excited to be on and share with people, and hopefully, some aspect of my story inspires somebody out there. So I was born in a little country in West Africa called Liberia. Liberia's got about when I was born, it had about 3 million people. Now they've got 4.5 million, 5 million people. So it's a relatively small African country.
Wow! And
so beautiful place, but a lot of struggles in that place from 1989 till about in the 2000s. We had a civil war in my country. So in my youth, there was a lot of war going on and things like that. So that was my experience. I got a chance to live in a place where beautiful place, beautiful people, but a lot of chaos and destruction was around. So I didn't have this normal childhood growing up. It was just kind of this crazy environment that you did your best to live through and make it through. So we did our best. My father was a politician of some note in the country. He used to be the Secretary of State for the country.
Oh, wow.
And so yeah, man, I got a chance to see from his perspective of life growing up, and I got a chance to see from the poorest of the poor in the villages and some of the poorest places you could ever think of. I got a chance to see all of that. So that was where I was born and the environment I grew up in.
So wait a minute. Your father was the Secretary of State for the entire country? Dude.
Yeah, so he was basically the top diplomat in the country there. And
wow.
And a little history in Liberia. Liberia was founded by freed slaves. So slaves came to America and didn't really, when they got freed, some of them didn't really know exactly where in Africa to go back and resettle. So freed slaves decided they went to Africa to settle back on the West Coast, and they formed this country called Liberia. Liberia is the first independent republic. It was never colonized, so Liberia was never a colony of any Western country. They went back and decided we're going to start our own country. And so that's what they did. So it's the oldest republic in Africa. 1847, Liberia became an independent country. But it's had a lot of struggles along the way. So yeah, my father is known as the father of multi-party democracy in Liberia, because when these people go back to Liberia and set up the country, it's really a small group of people in power. And so over time, they started to have elections and things like that. So they went through a whole lot as a nation to get to that point.
Wow, dude, that's incredible. I did not know that. So, but as the child of the Secretary of State, looks like your wife is on here. She said Martin is royalty. So as the and I love y'all so. But as the child of somebody that's a powerful position to be in, and so weren't there wars and stuff going on all around you?
Oh yeah, I had my home attacked because here's to understand the situation I grew up in is basically this. My father wanted the poor people, everybody to kind of decide the future of the country. And there was a group of people who were in power before that didn't want everybody to have a decision. Only wanted a select group of people to be the ones to decide what happens in the country. So he advocated for the common man. He advocated for everybody having an opportunity. And so a lot of people didn't like that. And so a lot of people were enemies of him. And he was very opposed to war. He wasn't opposed to, because that's how sometimes people took power. And sometimes it still happens nowadays, take power in Africa. They go and assassinate the president that's there, and they take his place. And then now they become the president. And so
Wow.
he wanted to do things by choice. Let the people decide between two candidates. That was his philosophy. And so he made a lot of enemies because that was the path. He was about peace and prosperity, and that was the environment that we grew up in, where some of his enemies try to harm him, try to kill him. On one occasion, our home got attacked, and they threw a grenade in our backyard and shot into our homes, and we had to flee.
Were you there?
So
Were you home?
Oh yeah, I was there. I was
What?
there. I was actually by the window when they threw the grenade. I really actually didn't know what it was at the time, but they threw a grenade in our yard and it exploded, and it cracked the window. I was standing by in my father's bedroom looking outside, and then it exploded in there. So we because of his position, I grew up with security guards, and as a kid, I never went anywhere by myself. I always had a security guy. And because this was a war zone, people who have AK-47s are security people, and we had military people and special police people assigned to us. So we'd go to the beach sometimes, and there's a guy following you with his AK-47 to protect you. So it sounds kind of weird, but that was the environment that I grew up in. And I tell you, Ken, every day there used to be a line of people coming to our house to ask my father for money.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of poverty in Liberia. So they would line up and we'd open the gates, they'll come in and they'll kind of sit there, and he'll see them one by one. And for maybe an hour or so each day, they'll come in there, spend a few minutes with him and tell him what was happening in their lives and why they needed some money. And, he'll give them some money. I used to sit in a corner and I would listen to their stories. And so from a young age, I learned how important money was. I learned the role that money plays in people's life. For them, it was like a survival tool, So that when I see people have negative views about money, it always seemed funny to me because I saw money being used to help people. I saw money as a tool for survival, for philanthropy. And
Yeah.
my father really tried to help people. He did that in some ways to his own detriment. He sacrificed a lot of things for himself to be able to others.
Wow. Wow, and I apologize to our viewers. The internet is choppy. I don't know what's going on, but I can hear you pretty well, but your video keeps fading in and out a little bit. But that's all right. Let's just roll, man. The show must go on.
That's right.
So wow, dude, I didn't know. I knew a little bit of that. I didn't know all of that. So everywhere you went, you had an armed an armed military guy carrying, not just like a little Smith and Wesson, but an AK-47 everywhere you went. Oh my God! So
Well, the only place they couldn't bring the weapons in was they couldn't bring a rifle in at my school. So whenever my dad came, he didn't really come to my school a whole lot, but whenever he came to my school to talk to the teacher or something like that, the military guys had to be outside, and they would leave the rifle outside, and they would take out the magazine. They could go inside with the magazine, and then the guys with the pistols could go inside, but you couldn't take the rifle into the school. So.
wow, that's insane, dude. That is insane. Are you? Can you hear me? Uh-oh. We have an issue here. He's frozen. Martin, you're frozen. Uh-oh. Um, well, hey, let's just do this. Let's end the Skype call, and I'll call him right back. How about that? We'll get him back on here. So, wow, man, he has got an unreal story. I don't know what's going on. Can you guys still hear me? I don't know what's happening here. Can you guys still hear me? Okay. Hey, Claudia, how are you? Think we had a little issue here. I can't... I'm trying Martin back here. Trying him back. No answer. Ruh-roh. Okay, I'm having an issue getting a hold of Martin now. Let me see. There we go. He's calling me. Okay. Lost you, man. Lost you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, your internet is seems a little choppy, real bad actually. Don't know what that is. I tried calling you back several times and it didn't go through.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, let's just keep going. See, because it does get clear here and there. So.
Hang on a second. Let me change something here really quick and see if that might make a difference.
Okay. Rosie Geller said, "Martin, did you forget to pay the bill?" That's messed up.
Is that any better?
Yeah, actually, I think it is, man.
Okay.
Yes, you're crystal clear now.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, okay. So, all right, we are back. We're back at it here. Great, now I have to edit. I have to edit the video now. So, all right, so back to the guards would come in the school. They couldn't bring in their rifles. That's a crazy... That is literally a crazy way to grow up. I'm just going to say it. Like, that's intense, dude.
Yeah, it's I didn't grow up in a normal way, but it gave me some insights about life. I never really had a normal childhood, but it gave me some really great insights about life. It gave me insights about people. It gave me insights to understand that everybody's got a story and everybody's got something. It really gave me an insight about money. That was one of the biggest lessons I learned as a kid from living in that situation, because I tell people all the time, I grew up in a poor African country. I didn't necessarily grow up poor personally, but poverty was around me everywhere. Even as a kid, adults would come and ask me for money. Like as a kid, imagine asking me for money because they needed to pay their rent, they needed to buy food, and I used to have my back left pocket, so money I would get from my dad and things like that, I would keep in my back left pocket to give away. Wow. So imagine that probably every day, probably at least 3 to 5 people ask you for money.
Wow. And
a lot of people don't even know you. And as a kid, so imagine Abigail, your daughter, she's got adults coming asking her for money.
That's
and
insane.
that was what it was like for me growing up there. So I understood the role that money plays, and I understood the position my father held, because he would always try to be generous to people. I learned a lot of generosity from my parents. But yeah, that was how it was like. We had security guards going everywhere. It sounds like it's exciting, or it sounds like it's oh cool, yeah, bodyguards and all that. Actually, I hated it. It sucked. Yeah, bodyguards. The threat was real.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Personally, I don't see that as cool. Like if the threat is real, that means that there could be real bullets whizzing at you. Like that's, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was a plot to kidnap me one time. So there was special attention on me for whatever reason, and so there was a plot to kidnap me, and so I had to have security people everywhere. There was a period where at school there used to be this little restaurant right across the street from my school, and so we used to have two security guys sit in a restaurant just in case something happened.
Wow.
And actually, one day something did happen. One day, there was riots in the city, and they were planning on coming to my school. The school I went to was the school that kind of the high-profile kids went to.
Yeah.
So they were planning to come and do something at our school. And so our security guys, they got radioed threat coming to the school. So they literally ran in class, pulled me out of class, and we ran and grabbed my sister and pulled her out of class. It wasn't even like, hey, can you get permission? They literally just walked into the class and said, let's go. And so I grabbed my bag and then we ran out. And so it sounds crazy, but that was kind of reality for us. And I don't talk about these a whole lot, these kinds of things. I talk about it here every now and then, but my childhood really shaped the adult I became in terms of caring about people, in terms of coming to America and wanting to understand how wealth is created so that I can use money as a tool to help other people. And
look here. I think that personally, I think that childhood does shape who we become as an adult. And, at least it has a significant impact. Now, those who've had a really, really horrible childhood and still came out successful, those people did something different than the general population would do. And you, and it's kind of a rhetorical question, but I'm sure you saw people, killed, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, as a child.
Yeah, I saw my first dead body at 6 years old.
Oh my God, dude!
And when I was probably 12. When I was 12 years old, we were hiding in a house. We used to sleep in one house. This is kind of in the middle of a war now,
Jeez.
and we used to sleep in one house in the daytime, and we'd go to another house when it got dark. We'd go to another house and sleep at that house.
Wow.
And we'd wake up while it was still dark and go back to the previous house, so that people wouldn't know where we were sleeping at night.
Wow.
So we would always have to travel in the cover of darkness, and so it would be we would walk. We never took the car or anything. We'd walk, and so we would sleep in this neighborhood. And one night, about 12 years ago, one night it actually started. It was raining, and then somebody came and discovered some people were looking for us or something like that. I don't know if they were actually targeting us or just looking for someone else and happened to go to that particular house. But they were trying to get us to come out, and there were rebel forces with guns, so they're trying to get us to come out. And of course, we didn't want to come out of the house. They didn't know we were armed in the house, so they didn't want to come in.
Wow.
But what they did was they shot through the window. They shot through our bedrooms. We're in the bed, and the security people told us to lie down on the floor. So they shot through the bedroom window and shot all in the bed that we were in, probably 2 minutes before. If we would have kept sleeping, they probably would have just killed us. And
wow.
And actually, that night, the guy who owned the house, his wife, she was going to go lock the door, and she got shot from the side, right in front of us.
Oh my God.
And she didn't make it. So it's and I don't mean to lay a sob story on you guys, but those were things that we experienced. War, living in a war zone is real. And this was like a civil war where, it's rebel forces trying to fight against the government and some other opposing rebel forces, and they're fighting in the streets and shooting bullets in the streets. I mean, that's what a war zone is like.
And dude, this isn't about a sob story. It's reality. I mean, that's reality. And at 6 years old and 12 and that whole thing, man, seeing all of that, not just seeing it, living it, experiencing it, running to another house because you're gonna die if they catch you, like, you know, and knowing that as a child, like, wow, dude. So okay, so at some point, did you like? It doesn't sound like you did. Like, it sounds like you may have missed a few days of school here and there.
We sure did, man. That was a big thing in Liberia because wars would get started, and then schools would shut down, and then you'd wait a few months, and what will happen is the fighting will go on for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then they'll have a ceasefire, and then people agree to stop fighting, and then a month or two after that, they'll reopen schools. And so that's how it went. And you try to get back to school and get things going, but your whole life became disrupted with that. And so we missed some parts of school.
Yeah.
I was a pretty good student, so I got skipped classes in school. And so the wars didn't affect me as much, but there were people who didn't graduate high school till they were in their 20s.
Wow.
Because of the war. They missed years of school because of the war. And I came to America my senior year of high school. So I completed high school in America. I graduated at 16. It was because they had skipped me in some classes before. So I actually wanted to spend an extra year in high school because I was new to America. And I didn't feel like at 16 I was ready for college yet. I'd just been in America 1 year.
Yeah.
So I thought I wanted to stay an extra year, but then the guidance counselor said, well, you got enough credits to graduate. So they kind of said, well, why don't you just graduate now? And so I graduated, and I took a year off, and then I went to college at 17.
So let's talk about the coming to America thing. That's isn't that an Eddie Murphy movie?
That was the highest grossing movie that year when I came out.
Oh, was it really?
America. Yeah, that was a great movie.
I'm very happy to be here. That's what he said. I love that movie. So like, let's talk about that. So here you are, like, dude, was English the primary language?
Yeah, so because Liberia was founded by free slaves, they went back and they established there. So Liberia is surrounded by other countries, like Liberia is surrounded by next to a country called Ivory Coast, and they speak French there because they used to be a French colony.
Ah, okay.
But Liberia is English speaking. Is next to another country called Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone used to be a British colony.
Okay.
So Liberia, we grew up speaking English there, and then most people there speak African dialect, like whatever the language is for their tribe. So my tribe in Liberia is called Bassa. So we learned a little bit of Bassa when we were growing up. A lot of the war in Liberia was about tribal lines. Certain tribes didn't like some other tribes, and so people were killed just because they belonged to one tribe. But no, it was an interesting thing with the language thing. So I grew up speaking English. And then when I came to America, it was hard for sometimes people to understand me. So I try to talk American, to adapt how I talk so people can understand me better. Because I hated them asking me, "What did you say? Repeat that."
So, dude, I mean, you throw in a couple of dragons and you have a real life Game of Thrones. It sounds like, man. So like, you end up in your senior year. Somebody along the way decided that you should be in America.
Well, I used to, we left my home country of Liberia and we moved to a country called the Ivory Coast. And a guy became president in the country of Liberia, and my father thought it was no longer really safe for us to be there anymore because we were there off and on, and sometimes you get caught there during the war and you can't really leave. And so during that time, he decided that the kids would leave the country. So us, my mom, we moved to another country called the Ivory Coast. And they speak French in Ivory Coast. I learned French while I was there. But it was just a beautiful place. It was a great place. And because it was a French-speaking country, we went to a satellite school. There was a school in Chicago that had a satellite school there. So we went to that school. And what would happen is when you graduated from that school, you had the opportunity to come to America and attend the graduation. And so my older brother, who's a year ahead of me, he
he was coming to America to go to the graduation. He was going to stay here. And so I just, on a whim, I asked my dad, I said, can you send me to America when my brother Jerry's going? And he said, well, let's think about it. And then basically a few days later, he said, okay, I'll send you there. Really didn't have a game plan. I was going to come here and live with my aunt, but she had a lot of people already living in her house, so I couldn't really live there. And so, the school, I went to Illinois. There's a private school in Illinois. So I went there, and we had one family friend who lived in Chicago, and so I stayed with her, but the school was like an hour or so away, so I would take the bus and take the train to get to the school in the Chicago suburbs. And so I ended up living with the guidance counselor of my school. So we're looking for a family that would host me. So I basically came to America about 15 years old, and largely by myself.
So wait, did you just say you lived with your school guidance counselor?
Yeah.
Wow. Say that with your Liberian accent.
Oh man. I'll say something else with my Liberian accent later.
Chelsea told me to ask.
I see that comment on it. She loves mine because when I start talking to my siblings or my mom, we have the Liberian accent comes out. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Dude, I would never in a million years guess that you had any kind of an accent. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, man.
You've nailed the American accent.
Well, kids, people can be brutal. I spent when I was I think 8 years old, I came to America for 2 years, and the kids were brutal. They made fun of me for being from Africa. They called me names. They called me an African booty scratcher. I mean, they were brutal.
They called you what? They called you what?
Oh, an African booty scratcher.
What the hell? What in the hell is that?
That's an insult people in America have for kids from Africa. I don't even know where the hell that came from.
I've never heard that.
That was like a big thing. They called you an African booty scratcher.
Oh my God.
But anyway, it's so they were brutal. So when I came back to America, I went back to Africa, and I came back when I was 15 to America, and and I tried so hard to adapt because I didn't want people to make fun of me. So I figured, if I could learn to talk like an American person talks, I would adapt better in America.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I did. When I went to a French-speaking country, I learned how to speak French. So I came to America, I talked about, So anyway, that's
wow.
That's how the way I talk came about. You have to adapt, to your environment.
Well, I mean, dude, you sound like you have no accent, so I don't know. But I thought maybe you came over here as, in fact, like your English, American English is so perfect. I figured you came over as a baby or something. You never even like that's crazy, dude. So you came over here at 16 years old and wow, that's insane. Okay, so you ended up going to college. Was this in Illinois as well, in Chicago?
No, I came down south to Winthrop University, and I only ended up there because my brother was there. So I got all these offers from schools. I didn't know where the hell to go. So I was like, okay, my brother's at this school, so I'll go there. So I went there. People don't know this, but you think college is expensive. I was an international student in college. International students pay 3 times the price.
Wow.
And we were paying cash.
Wow.
So my father sponsored me my first year of college at 3 times the price.
Oh my God.
As a full-time student, because to come here and go to college when you're from another country is very expensive. And then after a year of doing that, I really decided I didn't want to be in college anymore. I wanted to get into the workforce. I was very disappointed by my college experience. I took an entrepreneurship course, and the professor who was teaching this course had never owned a business before. So he would bring these guys in to lecture. Every now and then, about once a month, he would bring a business guy in, and this guy would come and lecture. And these guys would come and talk, and they'll say, hey, college is great, but I don't have a college degree. So, and then after about the third guide, I came and said that, and I was like, well, wait a minute. I've always been told you come to America, and that's the thing. Africans, a lot of Africans, if they have the opportunity, want to come to America or go to England and go to some kind of Western country and get a Western education because you're told that's more valuable.
Right.
And then after this guy, and one day I went to see him. How I found out he had never owned a business. One day I went to see him because I put a business plan together, and I went to go see him in his office to talk about some business ideas I had. And so I started asking him about what it was like when he started his business. And then eventually he just told me, well, I've been teaching my whole life, so I've never had a business. And that just completely disappointed me. And I thought, what the freaking world? And so basically after that, I decided that the whole college thing wasn't really for me. I mean, I was 17 in college. I was pretty advanced, so I decided maybe
you were smart.
Yeah, that's some people call it that.
Yeah, it's all, own it, dude. Own it. It's all good.
Yeah, so I decided it really wasn't for me, and so I stopped going. And I got into the workforce, and I decided I was going to go back to college. My second year in college, I worked full time, and I paid for myself. I worked full time and paid for it. I never taken any student loans or anything like that, and it was tough to do that. But then I really was certain that college wasn't for me. But I've helped my siblings with college. Matter of fact, my siblings are highly educated, master's degree holder. My sister has a master's degree from Harvard. She's a Harvard scholar. She got a full scholarship to the Harvard Institute of Public Health. My brother has a master's degree. A lot of my siblings are well educated. They all send me their work to look over their work. They send me can you help us edit our papers? I help pay for some of their college. So their brother, the college dropout, is often asked. Anyway, so that was kind of my college experience when I came to America.
See, I love that. I think our educational system is a scam, but that's just me. Here's the thing. I've always thought, okay, whoever wrote those books that dude or gal is teaching me from, like, where did the thoughts originate? Where did they, like, it had to start somewhere. So and if it started somewhere, that means I'm capable of figuring it out or reading enough material about the subject to figure it out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I did, Ken, I liked learning. And one summer while I was because the satellite school in Africa that I went to was part homeschool, part you had a physical school you went to, but you could get your materials and study on your own. So one summer, I started reading a history book just out of curiosity. And then I got through a chapter, and I thought, man, let me take the quiz and see how well I do. So I took the quiz, and I went to the next chapter. And before you know it, in basically a week or two, I was done with the history book. And so I thought, well, I'm kind of on a roll. Let me do some more stuff. So I did an entire school year in one summer. And just really because I was curious and I was kind of bored. So I did that. And I realized you could learn a lot of things you wanted to learn on your own. And I really didn't even have a teacher that summer. I just kind of went through and did the work. And so it's a lot of these things you find in books and school and things, they just came from people. Somebody thought it was a good idea to put that shit in a book. And so you got it in there, and now you accept it to be true because it's sitting in some book you learned in school.
That's right.
So people never really thought that. A lot of times people never really learn to think for themselves and question things and to find out if they believe that to be true or not. They just, it's in a book in school, so you accept it. And I always like to challenge things.
Dude, that's so true. I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, but I was, my senior year, they came to me a few months before graduation in high school, and they said, hey, you didn't get a biology credit in 10th grade, and you need that credit to graduate. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to use biology for? I hated it when I took it. That's why I flunked out of it. Like, I'm not going to use that in real life. And they're like, it doesn't matter. I go, come on, give me the diploma. Let's call it a day and, move on from this. And of course they said no. And so I said, well, I got shit to do, and it doesn't include hanging out with you guys anymore. So I left. And you know, again, I look back and I think the same way, man. I was, 20 years old, got my first sales job at 20 or 21, somewhere in there, and I realized quickly, holy crap, I don't know anything about what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, and luckily I was able to talk to people, and I wasn't afraid, so I did well. But I had to learn my craft, and that's when I started studying Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins, Jeffrey Gitomer, everything I could get my hands on as it related to selling and managing and running a company, I did. And so again, I think that you can there's we are all unlimited potential beings. I truly believe that, right?
Yeah.
You can do anything if you just find out what it is you want to do and then learn it.
Yeah, exactly. There's some barriers. What I've learned is that there's some barriers to study. And there's three main barriers that was identified that causes people to start studying a topic, fail at it, and never go and do it again. Like a common thing people say is, I can't sell. Well, you can't sell because you never learned how. So, well, why didn't you learn how? What were some of the barriers to study? So, one of the barriers to people learning things is times you read things that a person doesn't understand, like what's called a misunderstood word.
Yep.
Like, so you ever read a page and you find yourself, you read that, you get to the bottom of the page, you don't know what the hell you just read. On that page, there was a word that a person went over and didn't really fully understand. People think they understand words, but they really don't. And I'm a pretty smart guy, and I used to think, there's no way me going over a word I think I understand, I don't really understand, could really stop me from learning something. Right. But then I actually started to look up words, look up the meaning of words, and I realized sometimes I thought a word meant wasn't actually what it meant. Or if you actually look at the history of the word, then you really understand, that's where that word came from. Oh, here's what it really means. And so that's one of the things. The second thing is like physical stuff. Like in school, a lot of times you're learning things just through a book, but there's no physical things about it. So like it's like if you tell somebody, hey, I'm going to teach you how to ride a bike by reading a book. That's never going to work. Sure, you can put the instructions in there, but until the kid can look at the bike, can feel it, can get on it, sit on it, pedal, that's the physical aspects of it. So all of those things, all these little things are barriers to study. Not having the physical things, the mass that's there that you can actually look at and touch and feel and know that thing's real and you can learn about it. And not having sometimes actually when I'm trying to describe an idea, we will take things around pens and little gadgets and things, and we will like make the idea and then put it together and say, okay, I'm standing over here, you're standing over there, this is what we're trying to do, and then you're like, okay, the person gets it because there's physical things there. So things like that are all barriers that in our school system they're not taught. In fact, a lot of times people aren't even aware that these things are barriers. They give kids words and they don't define the meaning of those words, and now the kids are kind of confused, especially with different subjects. Science, it happens a lot with science. Yep. It happens with finances. In the financial world,
I agree, man.
Terms used to understand.
I'm constantly asking Siri or, she's not on, Alexa. I'm always I muted her because she thinks she hears her name all the time. But I'm constantly asking them for, define this word. If I hear something or I read something and I don't understand it, like constantly, because I do know that that's one of the things that'll stop you from like being able to understand an entire book. Like one word, like screwed you up. So let me ask you, like, so you come over here, you go to college for a bit. At some point, you decided to join the workforce, right?
Yeah. So my first year in college, and I decided this isn't for me. When I got that realization that this wasn't for me. I actually knew my first day in college it wasn't for me. I had a sense of it, I just didn't know. Because my first week in college, English professor asked us to write a paper on why are you in college. And I could not actually come up with a real good reason besides to get an education. So there was I didn't anything that was real. And so I made up some crap, and so I realized, you know what? I thought back to that paper, and I realized, you know what? I really didn't even know why I was there. So after a year, I left, and I had a cousin living in Minnesota. So I went there. I went to visit her in the spring, and Minnesota's beautiful in the spring, all the lakes and everything. So I thought maybe I ought to live here. So I moved there, and
you moved to Minnesota?
Yeah, I moved to Minnesota.
Wow.
And I stayed there with my cousin. And I went they have this big mall called the Mall of America, the biggest mall in the United States.
Yep.
And they had Nordstrom's there. So I went and got a sales job at Nordstrom's. And, I got hired there. And that was basically the start of my experience in the workforce. I had a little job before. My very first job in America, I was a cashier at a grocery store. And I was really well dressed in a uniform, and so they used to use me in their promo videos because like the African boy, he's always well dressed. He takes pride in his stuff. So anyway, so they use me in their promo videos because they're like put him in the front, let's take some pictures of him. So that's what they never paid me for it, but I'm in some promo videos somewhere for this grocery store chain.
Wow.
But that was my first job when I got to America. And then my first actual real workforce job as an adult was when I left college, and I went and got into sales at Nordstrom. And everybody at Nordstrom had a college degree. Almost everybody had a college degree, and nobody used it. That was one of the most surprising things. Everybody there had a degree. They were all doing something. They had a degree in art and English and whatever they had the degrees in. And none of them were working in the field of it. I found this very interesting in America. I was about in America for maybe 2 years at that point.
Wow.
2-3 years at that point. And I thought, hey, this is a very funny thing. Why don't people use their degrees? And so, but anyway, so that was my kind of first real job, was working in sales at Nordstrom.
So at some point, my gosh, I can't believe how fast time is going by here. So at some point, I guess let's just let it unfold. What happened after Nordstrom?
So after Nordstrom, I got tired of the cold in Minnesota. At this point, another war happened in Liberia, and my mom had fled Liberia and came to America. So she came to America, my younger brother. And so she was living in California. My mom had gotten remarried to a guy from Liberia, and she was living in California with him. And so she encouraged me to come visit. So I went there, and I really liked it. So I moved to California. I was continuing working in sales. And for years, when I came to America, I always wanted to understand, what do wealthy people do with their money? Like how do they buy cars? How do they do stuff? Where do they keep their money? Where do they put it? And nobody could tell me this. This is something I've been trying to find out for years when I first came to America. Nobody could tell me this. And after I moved to California, I was living in San Diego, and I ran into a financial advisor one day, purely by accident. He had just moved back to San Diego. I was in a bookstore. He was just he saw me sitting there, and he came over and started talking to me. We just started to have a conversation, asked where I was from, and I said, hey, I'm from Africa. And so he was a white guy who had been to like 5 different African countries. He loved Africa, so he and I just kind of started talking. So I asked him what he did, and he told me he was a financial. He advised people on their finances, and I said, okay, do you have rich clients? Do you know rich people? What the hell do they do with their money? Where do they put it? What do they do? And then he laughed, and he said, yeah, I have a lot of rich clients, Martin. And I said, please tell me, what the hell do they do? And
right.
So he told me, he goes, what do you know about finances now? And I said, well, this is what I know, and this is what I've done. I've had a 401k, I've done these different things. And he said, well, wealthy people, they do other things. And so he explained to me what wealthy people did that was very different from what the masses do. And at the end of that conversation, I said, how can I do what you're doing? I want to do that. And he said, I met him on a Monday. This is maybe over 10 years ago. I met him on a Monday, and he said, well, come to my office tomorrow. He said, do you have a suit? I said, yeah, I got a suit. He said, put on your suit, come to my office tomorrow, and I'll I'll talk to you about the business, how the business works, and things like that. And so I went there the next day, and you know, he and I started working together.
Wow.
And so he was the guy who taught me a lot of things about how wealthy people think, how to look at things differently. He always had what I call opportunity eyes. And I want to give a shout out to my man David Miner on here. I like David. David's a great guy. There's a lot of guys on here that I watch and I like. Hey, what's up, Chevy? There's a lot of great people on here. Well, what's the doctor? And that you watch them and they're doing things. They're moving. I like that. I like movement. I like people who are moving, doing stuff.
Yep.
And so so this was a guy who was very much doing things. You know, this is my first mentor, and he really taught me about the financial world and how and I was talking about opportunity eyes. Everywhere we went, he would look at things and he would see things, like he would see new construction going up, and he'd look for, you know, what was the average income in that neighborhood, and you know, what type of homes were in that neighborhood, and what type of grocery stores were there, and if we're opening a new bank, if a new bank branch was open in that neighborhood. So he taught me to look with opportunity eyes, and is what I call it. You know, you're just kind of looking and seeing how do you put that together to maximize whatever opportunity is there. Can you spot it? And so he was the first guy to help me really see that, and then help me really understand the mindset of building wealth and what wealthy people do. And so I got started in the financial industry, and I had a lot of self-doubt when I got started, because I used to think, because when I came to America, I learned that the people who had money were middle-aged white people. That became what I called that was what I thought to be true.
Right.
Because I would see expensive cars, and I would always see middle-aged white people driving these expensive cars. And so then somebody told me, well, they're the ones who can afford it. So I used to think, why would middle-aged white people listen to a young black guy about their money? That was the thoughts going into my mind when I first got started in the financial world. And then I realized that if you learn things, if you really learned your craft, and you identify what people's problems were, and you could present them a solution. They didn't care if you were black. They didn't care if you were young. They didn't care about that. They cared about their damn problems, and could you solve it for them?
Right.
And so that after I started to really get some really successful clients, because they knew how to make money with the thing they were doing, there were other aspects of the finances they didn't really know how to properly handle, or they didn't know what kind of financial instruments could help them, you know, do the things they wanted to do. And so from there, I started to really learn a whole lot and really start to develop a lot of confidence. And then over the years, you know, we built a business where we work with a lot of high net worth individuals, and people have built a lot of wealth, but they still want to understand, well, how do I protect it? How do I pass it on? How do I handle taxes? Things like that. And so that was kind of my journey from going from, you know, working, you know, into my first sales job at Nordstrom's to you know, transitioning into the financial industry, and then now building a business in the financial world.
And a great business you are building, from what I can tell, from an outsider looking, just because I watch you guys. I watch David Miner's been a guest on the show. He's a really good friend of mine. Love that dude, and you're right. I love watching people that are doing stuff, because again, people get stuck. People and I have people on this show who are actually doing stuff now. They're actually, like, they've been through the problems and they overcame them, and they're now, you know, either most of the people I've had on, by the way, are millionaires. I don't know. I don't know if you are or not. Are you? I'm just kidding. You don't have to disclose that. I'm playing. But I know you guys are doing very, very well, and I love you and your wife. You guys are amazing. And William, that kid, man, holy crap. He is not lacking personality in any way.
Yeah, he's got some big goals and big dreams. We're doing well in our business. I'm thankful for that. But I'm always looking at what's the next level for us.
Right.
And we've been very fortunate to build a successful business, to get to the level that we're at.
Right.
But we always want to expand. I'm not a guy who really we hit a milestone in our business, maybe a month or two ago. Yeah. And then Chelsea and I high-fived for 5 seconds. clap. Matter of fact, more people want to celebrate us than we care to really celebrate the milestone. And that's because we're looking for what's the next thing. And so when you get to having $1 million net worth or million plus net worth, well, then what's the next one? And well, you get to 10 million. And so we're working on what our next things are now for in terms of financial goals. So, we high five for, we appreciate where we are. But what you talked about earlier, the potential, I believe our potential is so high that even this far is probably this much compared to what I believe the potential is.
Right.
And it's just a matter of doing. I believe very much in doing. Either you do it or you don't do it. There's you can talk about doing it all you want, but that's why I don't really talk a whole lot about what I'm going to do. Either you do it or you don't do it, and
Amen.
that's it. Those are the only two things.
Amen.
Nobody cares why you didn't do it. Either you did it or you didn't do it.
I teach my wife and little girl have been gone for a week at the National Dance Championship, and my little 8-year-old daughter is a national champion now. Like, she literally.
I saw that photo.
It's crazy, man. It blows me away. But I've taught her since she was able to understand that she's capable of doing anything that she wants in this life as long as she does it. Like, you got to take action, and the whole Grant Cardone thing that, that's how we met is through Grant. And the 10X is not it's a mindset. It's not it's reality. Like, so many people are just talking heads. All they want to do is talk and judge others and talk crap and be on social media and whatever. And that's fine, to each their own. But at the end of the day, it comes down to having big goals, writing those goals out, and taking massive action.
Yeah, and I give you guys a little tip in some of the things we've did, because we've expanded our income massively and expanded our net worth. We set targets, but we do things weekly. So, matter of fact, each week, my wife and I we discuss our money, and we discuss where things are at financially, and whether they're good or bad, we still discuss them.
Right.
And not that they're bad, but wherever it's at, we discuss that. If it's up, what caused it to go up? If your income went down from the previous week, what caused it to go down? And how do you fix that? So that's what we do. And so her job and her role, and part of her role in our business, is she takes some of the business stats and she sends them to me and say, "Here are the stats from last week. So those are the stats we have to beat." So each week we want to have an ongoing and growing business. So that's the way we look at things each week, so that we're continuing building and continuing expanding. And that makes a world of difference in terms of what you're doing versus just kind of hoping it all works out.
Yep, you got to watch what you're doing. I agree. You got to track it. So you guys, and again, we're kind of at the end of the hour already, but hey, we can go over. It doesn't matter. I don't care. It's my show. We can go all day if you want. But I mean, you guys, you and your wife wrote a book. Mm-hmm. Do you have a copy of it next to you?
It's usually right here, but I think she pulled it out. I'll grab one here in a second.
I have it around here somewhere. I just saw it there.
Yeah, I'll grab it for you. It's right over here.
Yeah, I want you to show everybody your book. I love your book, man.
Oh, this is our book. Let's fight about money.
There it is. Let's fight about money.
How to communicate about money, handle conflict, and build an unbreakable financial house.
Love it, man. I love that. So, what's next for you guys? What's coming up? Anything big?
Well, lots of big things we're doing. We are our two things that we're working on currently. We have an insurance and financial agency, so we're going to be expanding the agency. I'm licensed in 26 states, so I have clients in 26 different states, and I have a satellite office in California, and I have an office here.
Wow.
And I'm going to do more things in our office, because people see us and may not know we have It may not understand that aspect of our business, but there's a lot of compliance in the financial world where you can and can't say things, and certain things you can't talk about, other things you can, and
Right.
so we try to navigate around all of that and try to still put out good content. But we're working on expanding the agency. I really want to have offices in 10 different states in the next 18 months or so.
Wow.
And so if people out there and you ever thought about being in the financial world and you've got some experience in sales or you're good with people, feel free to reach out to us. So that's something we're focused on doing, expanding that business. And then we have our son's business where he teaches kids good money habits called Kids for Wealth. And he's almost done with his book, so he's going to put out a book about teaching kids how to make money and how to manage the money that they earn. He's 13 years old, and he's got better money habits than most adults would. I would trust him with my money more than I trust most adults.
Wow.
Because we go and he thinks about here's why I would do that. Because he thinks about his financial decisions.
Right.
And he doesn't necessarily have to think like about it. He just thinks through it. That's all. He thinks through it for a minute or two and makes a decision, and then that becomes his decision.
Right.
From everything. And Chelsea primarily started teaching him at 6 years old about money.
Wow.
So he's the sole heir so far, the inheritor of our estate. So anything we build, but even that we're going to leave it to him in stages. So we believe he can handle it, but we will still leave money to him in stages and leave money in his care and things like that. So we want to make sure that if you're going to leave money to somebody, you ought to teach them about it. So that's going to be doing things with his business where Chelsea's got a series of videos coming out talking to parents about teaching the kids about money and good financial habits. So we're going to be working on expanding his business as well. There's lots of things we're going to do with it. We're going to build apps. I want to do some either comic books or cartoons. We've developed some of the characters around it that teaches kids good money habits. We want to get his money system into schools, and just things like that. He's going to speak more. He's going to do things like that. He's only 13 years old, so he already speaks at places, and so we're going to expand that business as well, teaching kids good money habits because we're tired of seeing one generation to the next generation, and then they don't really learn. Statistically, most businesses don't pass to the next generation. Even if a business manages to be successful, it doesn't successfully pass to the next generation. Something like 70% of businesses do not go to the next generation.
Right.
Well, the next generation maybe never learn how to handle the business or handle the money or whatever it is. And I see this common with a lot of my clients, and I want to develop a program around this because they worked a lot of very successful people came from nothing. They worked really hard, became successful, want to give their kids every advantage they can.
Yep.
And then, but there's a borderline in which sometimes they're giving the kids too much, and they realize it, and they're like, "Oh, so that they struggle with that. And we want to teach parents how to do that successfully with their kids. One of the things we did with William is he buys we buy necessities, but he buys all the things that he wants. And sometimes it's hard because you're making a kid buy his own stuff.
Yeah.
But it's actually teaching him lessons. It's teaching him how to earn money, how to make money, how to handle his money, how to make financial decisions. And so he's proud to have his own money. And the other day he said, having money is like power. Money is like power. Yeah. And then whenever you just blow your money, you're just giving your power away.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very wise for somebody his age to come to that conclusion on his own that, this is my power to my freedom tool, my power to do things, my power to have the things I want, and I don't just want to just give it away willy-nilly. So
I want to ask you before because we can't go a whole lot longer, but I do want to ask you this question. I want to know, and I try to get this out of every interview. I mean, you've seen some. I had Sharon Lechter on here, the co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and Robert, the Kiyosaki the Kiyosaki's company. She was the CEO for 10 years. She's an amazing woman. Awesome. And she's all about money, right? She's all about teaching people. She was on the Presidential Advisory Committee for Financial Literacy for President Bush and Obama. So, like, you know, and so you're right, man. There's a huge gap in this country. But let's break it down to something in layman's terms, something that the average person can understand. Because the average person, dude, is not even remotely close to as well educated as you are on all of what you're talking about, and the average person probably isn't as smart as you are. So for the average person that can't, like, they can't figure it out, man. They're struggling. They're having, you know, their utilities shut off. You know, David Miner talked about that, about he was getting evicted, so he filed bankruptcy so they couldn't evict him, you know. and then he corrected everything. But you know, for the average person that's stuck, that can't figure it out, that maybe you know, has a regular job or a sales job, or they have a business that's failing or whatever. What's the number one? Two questions here. Number one thing you see people doing wrong when it comes to life, not just money, but life. And then number two, what would you tell that person to help get them unstuck, or at least get them on the right path immediately?
Well, I like formulas. Formulas are easy to remember. So there's a formula I use in life called B, D, have. That's what it means. Lots of people know what they want to have. I want to have a big house, big car, successful business. I want to have a great marriage, great kids, whatever. We all have this. We a lot of times we know what we want to have. Some people don't. But we got this somewhat of an idea of what we want to have. And then if you work it back, you have over here. Then you have do. Some people know what they got to do. Oh, I got to make more money. I got this, all these things I got to do. And a lot of times what people are looking for, they buy a course, they buy a program, they're looking for somebody to tell them what to do, how to do it, you know, and all of that. They're looking for the do. What are the tactics? What are the strategies? But actually what's more senior to that is be. Who do you got to be? So most of the time where I find people are making error, and that is they don't know who they got to be. What kind of personality do you have to be? You know, how do you have to be in life? What's your viewpoint in life? So a mistake a lot of people make in terms of their life, and especially in their finances, is they think in terms of scarcity. They think in terms of limitations. Oh, I can't have that, or I can't do that, or I'm not that way, or whatever it is. They think in terms of scarcity. And so if you become the person that thinks in terms of abundance, that lots of things are abundant now, how do you become that person? Because that's what a lot of people want to know. You program yourself, all right? You're just like a computer, where you have all kinds of computers have a lot of garbage on them. You wipe everything out and you reprogram yourself. Well, how do you do that? Well, you start to say things over and over to yourself until you start to accept those things to become to be true. So if you say I am is one of the most powerful words in an English language or any language.
Yep.
I am.
Uh-oh. You're frozen. I don't know what's happening here. We have another hiccup. Can you guys still hear me? Can you still hear me? Wow, the internet is being crazy. Something happened. I don't know what happened.
Okay, we back?
Yep, you're back. You're back. Okay.
So I was talking about be, do, have.
Yeah.
And if you start saying over and over, I'm successful, eventually you go, oh shit, maybe I am successful. And then what happens is that becomes your viewpoint. And then next, you automatically know, well, what does a successful person do?
and then you do those things. People who say, well, I'm bad at follow-up. Well, guess what? Guess what you'll do?
Yeah.
You'll do what somebody who's bad at follow-up does, which is not follow up.
Yeah.
So you don't have the skills. So a lot of times people don't focus on who they got to be. Look at yourself and really look at who do you got to be. And so I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make. They try to look for tactics. That's why I can tell people every single thing I'm doing. I've told people lots of things we're doing to achieve our business success, and they don't do it. You know why? They don't have the right be.
Yeah.
They don't see themselves as that kind of person. Most people are very intimidated to work with high net worth individuals for whatever reason. Either they don't feel like they know enough, they don't think they've had enough success themselves, whatever reason that's in there that they have. Well, I decided, I'm going to be somebody who works with high net worth individuals. So guess what? I became that. And so then what do I do? High net worth individuals. And what do I have? I have a successful business working with high net worth individuals. I mean, all it's changed was the be. So work on the be. The other thing I'll say really quick is when it comes to money and finances, people don't have what I call their core stable thing they run off of, right? When it comes to the money, where people make a lot of mistakes is they don't have a stable thing that they say, okay, this is what I'm going to evaluate any investment or anything I'm doing against this, because this is my core stable thing.
Yeah.
And when it comes to people focusing on the wrong thing, one core data that we believe, and we do everything we can to make sure this is true, is income has to be greater than outflow. What that means is whatever your lifestyle is, your income has to be far greater than that.
Yep.
It sounds simple, but if everybody followed that, people wouldn't be getting into massive consumer debt. People don't always follow that. That has to be the stable core data. And then we identified, so for a lay person, we identified what's the 4 enemies of your wealth. And so if you evaluate anything you do with money around these 4 things, you actually end up becoming very successful. And number 1 is taxes. Tax is the biggest enemy of your wealth. I don't care what anybody says. I do not plan to or want to have any desire to pay $1 more in taxes than is legally allowed. And I have every right, as a person living in America, I have every right to reduce taxes legally to the lowest possible. It's not the government's job to tell me what to do with my money. I don't even know what the hell to do with my money I sent to them. So taxes. Number 2 is inflation. Whatever you put your money has to outpace inflation. If it doesn't, you're losing value. You're losing money.
Right.
Number 3 is market risk. You know what? A lot of people like cash flowing real estate. There's very little market risk there. Even if the real estate market tanks, the tenants are still in there paying their rent. You're still cash flowing.
Yep.
So cash flowing real estate is not impacted by markets ups and downs. People invest in the stock market, have lots of ups and downs, very little control, mutual fund, all those kinds of things. So market risk, which is where most Americans have their money in the stock market. Yeah. Market risk is important. Unnecessary interest on consumer debt. If you take those 4 things, taxes, inflation, market risk, unnecessary interest on consumer debt, and you can handle those things, and you can make sure you have more money coming in than flowing out every month, you become financially successful. That's what a lot of wealthy people do. They structure everything from that point of view. They're always looking at what's going to be the tax implication. They're looking at, is my money growing at least outpacing inflation so I at least can keep up. They look at, how can I minimize and eliminate the risk? People think that higher risk leads to higher returns. That's not true. Statistically, that's not true. Higher risk leads to higher risk. And I can actually prove to somebody that higher risk does not, in an investment vehicle, equal higher returns.
Right.
That's what Wall Street tells you because they don't know how to protect against downside risk. And what that simply means is don't lose money. So you gotta do things in a way where whatever you're doing makes money and also doesn't lose money. If you're losing money, there's a problem that you haven't figured out that you have to fix. If you have too much debt, that's a problem. And usually the problem is a lack of sufficient income. Yep. Whatever you do, your most attention has to be on producing, creating income. I'm not the greatest fan of when you get started, the whole multiple sources of income. When you're getting started, I don't believe that's the way. Because I see too many people misunderstand that. They think, so they got 8 streams of income, but it's barely equaling one good flow.
Right.
What? your attention in 8 different places trying to create income streams, but you barely got one good flow. I believe you put a lot of attention, especially if you're just getting started, on what income flow you have now. Maximize that, take surplus, create other flows from that, create other things flowing into you from that. Don't go and try to do 8 different things at once, because none of it will actually get your attention or ever amount to anything, really. And that's what I see a lot of new entrepreneurs doing. Focus on one thing, get good at that, master that, then add other stuff.
Totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I'm going to need, we have 665 hearts on this. I need somebody to pound the heart so we don't get to the 666. Just somebody blow right past that right now. Just tap the hell out of the hearts. So listen, dude, I freaking, you are like, dude, you may be a genius. I don't know, but, you're incredible. I genuinely, and I mean this, I love you and your wife, and I love what you guys are doing. You guys are amazing. I had the opportunity to meet you. Actually, I think we got a couple of selfies. I should have posted that. But I'm excited because I have your wife on the show too, coming up on, I think, Wednesday. So, dude, I am so grateful that you took time out of your busy calendar. I know you're incredibly busy, to be on the show. How can everybody in the audience find you? How can they follow you? What's your website? Where's the best place to follow you?
Well, kind of our website where everything is, links to all of our stuff, because we have different financial websites and everything, but martinandchelsea.com. So Martin and then AND and then CHELSEA.com. Links to that. It's just a kind of a portal that links to our different websites. You want financial videos to educate you. All that is on there. Our speaking engagements, we have a show on a digital TV network. We have links to all of that from there. Otherwise, you can just follow me on social media. I'm at the number 1 Martin Matthews. So at 1 Martin Matthews on just about every social media, Instagram, Twitter. Of course, you're on Facebook. So be happy to. We post a lot on Facebook, just to get content out there, because we get people ask us a lot of stuff. Ask us a lot about all kinds of different things. So we try to put out content that for everybody. It's not just for rich people, but it's content that I think anybody can benefit from it, to follow and things like that. So,
dude, you are a serious and true rock star. You've been through so much and overcome it, and came to America and freaking have made it, and you're making it every day. You're expanding and growing, and I just love it, dude. I love it. So thank you so much for being on the show. This was an incredible interview. I think there's some people that have said some amazing things about you, dude. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Ken. And I just want to give a big shout out to you for doing this. I know this takes time out of your day too, to put content out there for people, to help people. And so, I love being with your family, and everything. It was great meeting you and hanging out with you in person at 10X the other time. So, thanks for this, and thanks for inviting us. And anytime you need us, we're there for you.
I know it, man. You rock. I appreciate you. Thank you to everybody who shared this out. Man, we got a lot of hearts now, dude. I love it. So thank you to everybody for all the shares, the likes, the loves, the hearts, everything. This was absolutely amazing, and we will see you guys tomorrow back here on Breakthrough Walls. I appreciate all of you. Martin, thank you again, brother. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks.
You guys have a great day. See ya.